Hold the front page. I'm Lembit Öpik and welcome to Press Release, where we find the facts, kill the spin and tell it like it is about the stories making the headlines. This week we'll be looking at tall tales from all around the world and sorting out the reality from the rubbish. First, a roundup of the week's news with events that cause more questions than answers. Even though Syria's government has been under fire for 8 years, it's still there and coming back into the Arab community despite the best efforts of its enemies. Iran continues to do its patient best to protect Europe from its own terror-connected provocations. And it's beginning to look like there's one man who Donald Trump seems to take his instructions from, the North Korean leader. What weirdness, what a week, what a world! Let's get down to the details and separate the political friction from the political fiction. There are some interesting things going on with Syria. After 8 years of fighting an insurgency, mainly thanks to foreign-backed militancy, the Damascus government seems to be returning to business as usual. Remember the Arab Spring? That's the name the West gave its big push to back regime change right across the Middle East. Country after country went through all kinds of militant upheaval, from Libya to Syria and all points in between. That included a big effort to get rid of Syria's President Bashar al-Assad, as Western powers poured resources into fighters determined to topple his presidency. Fast forward to 2019, and the Speaker of the People's Council of Syria arrived in Jordan's capital, Amman, to attend the 29th conference of the Arab Interparliamentary Union. What's going on? This wasn't the plan. President Assad was meant to be long gone by now, but instead his people are back at the Arab states table, taking part in normal politics again. The Speaker of Jordan's House of Representatives even invited countries to work towards a political settlement to the Syrian crisis and for Syria to regain its place in the Arab world. It gets worse for Assad's enemies. Some Arab nations are reopening their embassies in Damascus. Bahrain recently said it was fixing up its embassy there, and there are also flights between the two countries which actually never really stopped. At the same time, the United Arab Emirates officially reopened its embassy in Damascus. That's tricky for America because they're big friends with Bahrain and the UAE. So if Western friends are now also Assad's friends, who's fighting who? And who's the enemy exactly? There was a time when Western power would hardly ever be defeated in regional conflicts. That's all changed, it seems. They're still out there, dropping their bombs, of course, most recently phosphorus ones. Those are very bad bombs. You don't want anyone dropping a phosphorus bomb in your back garden. But for all the war, it looks like Syria's government remains undefeated. Winners write the history, losers write off the cost. It looks like these days the losers will be paying in US dollars, not Syrian pounds. The terror group Daesh would have made it across Europe if it hadn't been for one key country in the war on terror. Which country is that? Britain? No. France? Try again. America? Come on, let's get serious. I'm talking about Iran, which has been locked in battle with Daesh ever since it got active in the region all those years ago. Let's remember the history here. This terror group has been used by the wealthy West in the Middle East to push its own agenda. They thought they could train them, arm them, and control them. And as so often happens, it all went horribly wrong, and not just in the Middle East. Terror came to Nice in southern France not that long ago. It also showed up in Paris, Manchester in the UK, and lots of other country capitals in the European Union and beyond. It's no accident that so many Western citizens have turned up fighting for Daesh. Is anyone surprised that Western policies have radicalized these people who continue to present a huge threat to peace and security? Meanwhile, Iran has been picking up the pieces all around the region, including in Syria and Iraq. That's according to Iran Foreign Ministry spokesman Bahram Qasemi, who also pointed out a global coalition is required to wipe out the terror threat. Unfortunately, instead of joining Iran in trying to help fix the problem, the West seems more interested in accusing Iran of being the problem. But hold on a moment, the West started it. But hey, when did logic ever make any difference in this crazy international world of weirdness? Meanwhile, Tehran's been patiently trying to put out the very fires the West has started, once again underlining the trouble when the West tries to light up a region. Everyone tends to get burned. Ouch. Meanwhile, the world's greatest peacemaker, a man so devoted to peace, he even tried to get the Japanese Prime Minister to nominate him for the Nobel Prize for Peace, has had a bit of a setback. Yes, the leader of the freewheeling world, Donald Trump, had a bit of a problem at his second summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong Un, this time in Vietnam. But it's kind of Donald's own fault, isn't it? He wants North Korea to get rid of its nuclear weapons, but at the same time, he simply refused to back down on his favourite international policy tool, sanctions. Without Trump junking any of those economic bombs, North Korea has no reason to junk its atom bombs. Afterwards, Trump did his best to paint a positive picture using his second favourite international policy tool, the tweet. He's also praised Kim Jong Un because clever Kim promised not to detonate any more nuclear weapons. As many commentators have said, the joke's on Trump here. North Korea would never have had so much attention from an American president without the A-bombs. So North Korea wins influence without firing a single shot in anger. Smart work. While all this has been going on, North and South Korea have quietly focused on becoming better neighbours, with China and Russia watching on. So who's the winner? Well, with North Korea, one of the world's poorest nations, having regular friendship meetings with the leader of one of the richest nations, I'll leave you to do the sums. And it's also worth noting a final irony. The meeting took place in Vietnam. As I recall, that didn't go particularly brilliantly for the Americans either. As usual, I'll make some predictions about what could happen in the weeks ahead. Firstly, Syria will continue to get back in the international swing of things, while the West tells President Assad that they were always on his side from the very beginning of the civil war they sponsored. The war on terror will continue with Iran like a patient parent, doing most of the work and getting none of the thanks from those meddling Western kids. And every time the North Korean leader wants a chat with the American president, he'll call the White House, and Trump will take a US military plane to Vietnam, but these days without dropping all those naughty bombs on Hanoi, which didn't work the first time round. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and join me next time for Press Release, the show that takes the political friction out of the political fiction. Hold the front page, but don't trust it, trust me.